Is there anything original Brian Shapiro can do these days? I mean, let's be honest. The guy, I covered Shapiro more times than I can count on here, and of course it got me a lot of attention. But it still comes to my attention that this guy, this absolute buffoon idiot, decided to plagiarize Ryan Krasenstein's ex post on TikTok. I mean, nothing surprised me anymore. Nothing, nothing surprises me. This buffoon really got roasted, and they said, "Oh, he's had Shade with Shady Sharp saying, oh, he's having a tough go." Another guy said, "What a dick." But this was sent to me earlier this morning. But I will say this: what you're about to hear is complete idiocy. And I'll read you the whole post in a few minutes. So bear with me. This is an act of plagiarism. Be advised, it's not going to be pretty.
About the definition of fucking tone deaf? Donald J. Trump. Americans are watching their 401ks crumble to the ground. And there are layoffs that have been going on throughout the country. I talked about it earlier today. People are losing their jobs in all sorts of different industries because of these tariffs. There are so-called illegal immigrants that are being sent to prisons with the highest maximum security possible with no due process at all. And Donald Trump has unveiled today the gold card. No, I'm not talking about a strip club card that you get in for VIP access. No, not that type of gold card. I'm talking about for undocumented immigrants to come into this country and to spend $5 million. And of course, he put his face on it, bragging about it on Air Force One today. So while all this stuff is going on throughout the country, Donald Trump, let me get this right. He's traveling to a live golf tournament from the Saudis who have paid him millions and millions of dollars to play at Doral Golf Course. He's going there for a dinner tonight, hanging out with members of the Saudi government. And on Air Force One, he's bragging about his gold card with his face on it that costs $5 million to all of a sudden become a legal citizen. He's doing that while everyone in this country is suffering. This is who Donald Trump is. What will it take for some of you MAGA morons to...
Oh man, how sad. Because this is what I think about it. First, let me say this about this from my perspective. This guy is an absolute buffoon. And I cover this guy many times that I can count. Of course, I'm going to read the Brian Krasenstein bit. He says, as Americans watch their 401ks collapse, layoffs ripple across industries, and immigrants are reportedly being sent to foreign prisons where human rights abuses occur. And of course, I like to call him the clown, unveils a gold card, proudly declaring yours was just $5 billion. It's in bold words. Tone deaf doesn't even begin to cover it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is insanity of the highest order. He wants to. He got that. This is when the Donald Trump, in his idiocy, he wants to roast the people that say that my idea is right. It's you who's wrong, dumbass. Do you even look in the mirror and say to yourself, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing. Is this a butt fumble? I think we're going to do pretty well. I think it's going over pretty well. Not really. HuffPost really ran the guy. This guy is an absolute buffoon. This was an absolute buffoon. It's saying, this is a great time to get rich as the stock market continues its free fall. He's an idiot. He fumbled the bag. He fumbled the bag. Janine Pirro said this. I don't really care about my 401k today. You know why? None that I could afford. Not that I could afford it. Not that it isn't important. Not that I'm at a point in my life where I should be worried about my 401k. Because I am. But this is what I believe. I believe in this man. Yeah, the stock market crashed this week. And boy, believe it or not, Janine Pirro is an absolute idiot. And if you don't believe me, take a listen to this insane commentary from Janine Pirro.
And you know what? I don't really care about my 401k today. You know what? Not that I can afford it, not that it isn't important, not that I'm not at a point in my life when I should be worried about my 401k, because I am. But this is what I believe. I believe in this man. And I believe that what we're seeing now with his bringing in $1 trillion in business and manufacturing and companies moving back to the United States and seeing what we saw during COVID when we couldn't, we had all those supply.
Which proves my point that this absolute buffoon idiot doesn't know what he's doing. Oh, I put my faith in this guy. He's gonna lead us to prosperity and bullshit and everything that comes with it. Yeah, it's gonna lead you to so much bullshit, Toots. HuffPost page Lavender wrote J.P. Morgan raised the odds of a recession to 60%, up from an earlier prediction of 40% after the clown imposed sweeping tariffs earlier this week. Of course, Reuters reported disruptive U.S. policies have been recognized as the biggest risk to the global outlook all year. This is, of course, that's from J.P. Morgan strategist led by economist Bruce Kasman, said on Thursday, which he goes on like this: the effect of this tax hike is likely to be magnified through retaliation, a slide in U.S. business sentiment, and supply chain disruptions. Donald Trump is an absolute idiot. Sure, there's going to be added a surprising 228 down to 228,000 jobs last month. Showing a little resilience as Donny Boy wages trade wars, purchases federal workers, and imports immigrants working in the United States illegally. Of course, the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2%. Of course, the hiring numbers were up 117,000 in February, and nearly doubled the 130,000 mark that economists had expected. Yeah, but these kind of things. But the stock market is out. Kamala Harris said, "I'm not going to say I told you so," but she did say, "But we all say, yeah, we told you so." And of course, this guy wants to work. This guy really wants to work. Of course, when he says the clown issued a call out to foreign investors after his rollout of tariffs against some of the nation's biggest trading partners, tanked the stock market, saying, well, quote, to the many investors coming to the United States and investing massive amounts of money, my policies will never change. This is a great time to get rich, richer than ever before. And he's an absolute imbecile. That When that proclamation came as stocks continued to plunge on Friday, with the Dow falling as nearly 1,000 points shortly after the opening bell, because this follows losing 1,679 points on Thursday. Of course, he did not directly acknowledge the drop. Instead of going on to celebrate the latest job report that shows U.S. employers added 228,000 jobs in March. I said that earlier. Months before the tariffs were implemented, it was nearly double the economics had expected. Elmer and this guy went on to say, "Great job numbers, far better than expected. It's already working. Hang tough, we can't lose." And the stock and Donny Boy forgot to mention, "Oh yeah, the stock market's down. Hang tough, we'll get back there. We'll try to get back on track." Gulp. Derp. This guy's an idiot. He's an idiot. And one of the most biggest things of ever. The war with the press is cancerous, and everyone knows it. And of course, I'll say this. Of course, just how big of a cell phone are the clones tariffs? Probably the worst since the Smoot-Hawley tariff of 1929, which ultimately collapsed international trade and played a significant role in the Great Depression. This was from Wharton School of Business Finance professor Jeremy Siegel. He said, I think this is the biggest policy mistake in 95 years. He said that on Squawk Box earlier today. Hey, as markets opened and immediately began to tank for the second day in a row. Donald Trump is bombing the economy. And by the way, trade is much more important part of the global economy than it was 95 years ago when the Smoot-Hawley tariff was put up. So the implications are potentially a lot worse. Of course, Siegel at least felt more confident that the Federal Reserve will have a better handle on the situation than in 1929, because he predicted lower interest rates are on the horizon, which also means the return of inflation. This is Donald Trump's economy, ladies and gentlemen. More of your tax dollars at work. Of course, and this is terrible because for all you gamers, video game fans, easy to pre-order the Nintendo Switch, according to HuffPost. We'll have to wait a bit longer because the Japanese video game company on Friday scratched its April 9th pre-order date so we can assess how tariffs might impact the market. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don, for ruining everybody's birthday present. The company did tell GameSpot pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, 2025 in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and the evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged. That's really real sweet. Of course, the console was expected to retail for around $450,000, a price that now seems subject to change. And then you have a beef, and then Donald has a beef with everybody in the Federal Reserve. He said he issued a warrant. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warned in a statement Friday that Trump's new round of brutal tariffs will likely lead to higher inflation and slower economic growth. Powell said the tariffs are significantly larger than expected and that import taxes are highly likely to lead at least a temporary rise in inflation. I guess Donald Trump is a complete absolute idiot here. Of course, he said this better, and I think he said it better. Our obligation is to make certain that a one-time increase in the price level does not become an ongoing inflation. And the human butt fumble decided to post on his well-known social media platform. And he went on like this. This would be a perfect time for Fed Chairman Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. He's always late, but he can now change his image and quickly. Energy prices are down, and interest rates are down. Inflation is down even down 69%, and jobs are up all within 2 months. A big win for America. Cut the interest rates, Jerome, and stop playing politics. Sheesh, Don. You know better if you had it in you, because you're pretty much an idiot. And this is a guy, that gets some advice from Laura Loomer. So take a look from Chuck Schumer, who pretty much has an interesting take on the situation on CNN earlier.
To go, I just want to ask, as a member of the so-called Gang of Eight, how you feel about the fact that Laura Loomer, she's a right-wing activist, got into the Oval Office with a list of names and asked the president to fire people, and he apparently has done so, including top people at the National Security Agency.
It's like an inmate running the asylum. Laura Loomer is one of the most extreme MAGA conspiracy theorists there is. She says that 9/11, January 6th was an inside job, and he's listening to her. This shows how low this administration goes. And it's all catching up with them, as we saw in Wisconsin. It's all catching up with them.
It's all coming back to them. It's all coming back to them. MAGA Republicans are the most idiotic members of the base right now, because right now, as long as this clown is in office, he's a total butt fucker of this insanity. But I think it's so safe to say that I'm practically insane when I think about it. But when I really wanted to talk about the news that's happening today, but hey, I started it with with Brian Shapiro being a plagiarist, and he did just that. If I went off topic for that segment, yeah, maybe so, but I like to start that. I like to start it. But then when you but with this idiot, this butt fumble is an embarrassment. I agree wholeheartly that the political movement isn't gonna be circling around Donald Trump and what have you. This movement is not going to be circled around well, you know, the Chuck Schumer Nancy Pelosi model. I think that I am for a firm American form. I am for a political movement that works. I think this is why I think Dems losing here is pretty much asking for snide remarks. I think this is insane. And for many people, I say this more often than not. I agreed with them and saying, you know what? This is an insane asylum. This is the insane asylum. We run idiocy like it's a church. And the demise of Trump is 80 last year, almost 80% of Jews voted for Democrats. I think I think it's an 80. I think it was very strong at 80%. I don't know. I don't know what has gonna happen at the time. I said, yeah, game plan. I don't blame people for saying, yeah, we don't know what to do. You can't say, oh, this is pretty much what we want, but pretty much what we asked for. but I'm very smart with what I say. But I'm pretty smart with what I say. This is a time with insane. This is where I say this is the policies that Donald Trump is putting up with. And you could say that Brian Shapiro's an idiot and he's a complete buffoon, and I say that with wholeheartedly. I've done plenty of videos on him too, but I'll say this: he's a joke, and I'll say he's a joker. He's a jokester. That's a pretty much he's not doesn't take I don't take seriously or a grain of salt. But this right here, I think it's not be a. I say it's not a. We say telling you to fuck up and not politely, because I don't care. I don't want people don't want to be a group of wimps. People want to see somebody fight back. You see, people will think it'll be a Richie Torres, John Fetterman, Josh Shapiro model, sensible, pragmatic, security forward. No. That's true, but you need to be fucking tough. When shit like this happens, you can't sit back and say, "Oh, we're gonna sit here, eat our cheese, drink our wine, and not do shit." No. That's not how it works, Chief. That's not how it works. You need to be fierce but focused. Make the people want to say, vote for you. I want this. But at the end of the day, I get angry with it. I get angry with people who don't know what to expect. And as we move forward to Jewish audiences and doing something for many people who don't know what I do, that's what I do, and I care. 2026 is the year. 2026 is the insane asylum. 2020. I mean, you want to spew their agenda? They're a soulless husk of a man, and I'm proud to continue doing my show, doing this on a daily basis, and do what I can. So, in closing, I would just say to Brian Shapiro, you can go fuck yourself. You plagiarist, abusive fuck. And I will be back next time with an all new episode. And the next time, be a good human being. Stay happy, stay healthy. Also, for the bottom up, for those who are sports fans, Elena Delle Donne announced her retirement. Two-time WNBA MVP on both teams. Chicago's for the Chicago, one for the Chicago Sky, and the other for the Washington Mystics. Won a WNBA title in 2019 with the Mystics. And I would say this: congrats on a great retirement, Elena Delle Donne. So, with that in closing, stay happy and stay healthy. See you next time. Like what you see? Buy me a damn coffee. Link in description. Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks a lot. Watch more right here.